Welcome to Explain and Recap. Today, we're talking about Symbol, 2009, a comedy fantasy mystery that's as weird as it gets. Spoilers ahead, so you've been warned. Stay happy and take care. So, here's the deal. A Japanese guy, dressed in the most outrageously colorful pajamas, wakes up in a plain white room. No doors, no windows, just endless nothingness. As he looks around, he spots something sticking out of the wall. And, well, let's just say it looks suspiciously like a certain baby male body part. Curious, and probably a little too trusting, our pajama-clad hero starts poking the weird wall knob. After a couple of experimental jabs, he gives the tip a solid press, and boom. The room erupts with giggling baby angels popping out of the floor and walls like they're on a surprise party mission. But just as quickly as they appear, they vanish back into wherever they came from, leaving behind one important change. Now, all their little members are sticking out of the walls and floor. Welcome to the learning phase. Feeling understandably weirded out, the man sniffs the finger he used to press the button, because, of course, that's what you do in this situation, immediately screams in terror, and starts crying for help. But surprise, surprise, nobody's coming to save him. So, he does what any of us would do in a room full of mysterious buttons. He starts pushing them at random to see what happens. Every press delivers a different surprise item, ranging from tiny toothbrushes to giant vases. He quickly figures out that pressing the same button again gives him the same object, leading him to create an impressive pile of chopsticks. His fun is cut short, though, when he presses a different button and gets rewarded with a tiny cart that rolls out and slams into his legs. Ouch! As he writhes in pain, he presses another button, only for it to transform into a butt that farts directly into his face. A humbling moment, indeed. Hours pass, and the room is now filled with an absurd collection of random objects. Then, in a stroke of luck, he throws a ball at the wall, accidentally pressing a button that drops sushi into the room. Jackpot! Finally, some food. But just as he's about to dig in, reality hits. He's missing soy sauce. Frustrated but still hopeful, our pajama-clad prisoner calls out to his mysterious captors, politely requesting some soy sauce. But, as expected, radio silence. So, he does what any logical person would do. He starts spamming the sushi button like he's trying to win an arcade game. Soon, he's got an impressive mountain of sushi in front of him, but still no sauce. Admitting defeat, he digs in anyway, finding the sushi surprisingly delicious. But just as he swallows the last piece, he presses the button for more, and bam! That's when the soy sauce finally decides to show up. Furious, he shoves the bottle aside like it personally insulted him and, out of spite, presses a different button. His reward? A pair of old-school 3D glasses. Curious, he puts them on, and suddenly, he can see one of the baby angels, who's now pointing at its mysterious little knob. The man's eyes light up. Eureka! This must be the answer. Excitedly, he presses the button. A countdown begins. His heart races. And then, whoosh, a giant butt appears from above and absolutely annihilates him with a fart attack. Some hours later, having accepted that this room clearly has it out for him, he passes the time by reading a manga series. It's actually really good, and he gets through 5 volumes. When he presses a button to get the 6th, the room skips ahead and gives him the 7th instead. Because, at this point, why wouldn't things continue to be this absurd? Frustrated beyond belief, the man keeps hitting random buttons, hoping to finally get volume 6 of his manga. Instead, he gets 8, then 9, but still number 6. At this point, it's like the room is just messing with him. But then, finally, one of the buttons does something useful for once. A section of the wall slides open, revealing a door. Freedom is near. The man celebrates like he just won the lottery, until he realizes a tiny problem. He forgot which button opened the door. No big deal, right? He'll just try another one. So, he presses one at random, and suddenly, an African tribesman sprints out of nowhere, running back and forth across the room like he's late for something important. Okay then, next button, splash. Water dumps right onto his head. Now he's wet and confused. Finally, on the 3rd try, he hits the right one. The door slides open. Yes! He bolts toward it, ready to escape this insane room, only for it to slam shut right in his face. No! Determined, he tries again, but the same thing happens. That's when it clicks. The door only stays open as long as the little member button is pressed down. Alright, time for some problem solving. First attempt, he tries pressing it with his foot while getting into a runner's stance. Fail. Next, he smacks it with a fly swatter from as far away as possible, hoping he'll have enough time to sprint through. Nope. He then gets creative, pulling it with a jump rope, fanning it down with a gust of air, even ramming it with the tiny cart. Nothing works. The cart, in particular, is a disaster. No matter how many times he tries, he just cannot control the thing. At this point, it's him versus the button, and the button is winning. The man realizes he needs to find a way to keep the button tip pressed down. He places the huge vase on top of it, but the button still manages to pop back up. Seeing this, he concludes that he needs to make the vase heavier. First, he tries using the water button, but no matter how hard he tries to redirect the flow, the water only falls on him and nowhere else. His next idea is to fill the vase with sushi, but once it's full, it becomes too heavy for him to lift. To make matters worse, the vase's neck is too narrow for his hand to fit inside. With no other option, he uses chopsticks to remove pieces of sushi one by one. After taking out enough, he finally manages to lift the vase, though just barely. Carefully, he carries it toward the buttons, but once he gets there, he realizes he has lost track of which button it was again. He sets the vase down to figure it out, presses a random button, and, as if on cue, the African tribesman appears and accidentally bumps into the vase, causing it to crack and break in half. This pushes the man over the edge. In a full-blown panic, he yells non-stop, and in the middle of his meltdown, he finally presses the correct button. Desperate, he starts piling sushi on top of it, but it proves useless. The little member tip pops up again, peeking through the rice. The man tries covering the button with tape, then doubles down by adding a steel plate on top, but nothing works. The stubborn little button refuses to stay down. Defeated and sore from the door repeatedly slamming into his back, he takes some painkillers and decides to nap. After waking up, he feels the need to brush his teeth, so he presses a button to get water. Unfortunately, it's the wrong button, and instead of water, a rope drops from the ceiling. Surprisingly, this lifts his spirits. He suddenly has a new idea. He opens the door, grabs the rope, and swings across the room like an action hero, hoping to make it through before the door closes. It works, almost. The moment he reaches the exit, he finds out that the actual door behind the fake wall is locked. Scrambling back before he gets trapped outside, he makes it just in time, though not without the door smacking him again on his way in. Frustrated, he kicks the wall, and by sheer luck, he activates a button. Right in the middle of the room, a key appears, floating in the air. Just like the door, though, the moment the button pops back up, the key disappears. Now he has an even bigger problem. He needs to find a way to keep both the key and the door available at the same time. But first, he needs to figure out which button he accidentally pressed, because in all the chaos, he lost track of it. Thinking back to where his foot landed when he kicked the wall, he makes an educated guess and presses a button, only for a dog to pop out of the wall and start barking at it. The same thing happens with the next button. Another barking dog pops out. But on the third try, he finally gets it right. Not wanting to lose track of it again, he keeps his eyes locked on the button while slowly walking backward. He grabs a piece of sushi fish and uses it to mark the correct spot on the wall. Confident in his system, he presses the button again, only for the dog to come out yet again. After a deep sigh and some self-reflection, he quickly finds the right button once more and moves on with his plan. He makes the rope appear and swings across the room, aiming for different buttons. Unfortunately, it's not quite enough to reach properly, and he crashes to the floor. That's when he spots a plunger among the random objects scattered around. A light bulb goes off. He can use it to push off the wall and extend his reach. His first attempt is a disaster, but on the second try, everything clicks. The combination of swinging on the rope and using the plunger for an extra push allows him to perfectly execute his plan. Pressing the key button, grabbing the key, pressing the door button, and making it to the exit just in time. Wasting no time, he jams the key into the lock and turns it. Just when he thinks he's free, he's met with a nasty surprise. The door has a second lock on top, requiring a 3-digit code. Frustrated, he dashes back inside, getting hit by the door yet again, and in a fit of rage, he throws the plunger against the opposite wall. It just so happens to hit the button that releases the African tribesman. As he watches the tribesman walk by, something catches his eye. 3 numbers painted on his forehead. That must be the combination he needs. Since the door only stays open for a limited time, he has to repeat the whole swinging on the rope and jumping routine 3 times, entering 1 number per trip. On the third and final round, he stays in place, unlocks the door, and pushes hard to open it. Just as he finally gets it to budge, the wall behind him closes, leaving him trapped in a tiny space without enough room to finish opening the door. Devastated, the man plops down on the floor and starts crying, thinking back on all the fun he had with the random objects from the buttons. He remembers how, even though he was locked in that weird room, at least there was space to move and some entertainment. Now, he's stuck again and realizing he didn't appreciate it while he had it. Suddenly, he feels a breeze on his face from the left wall. Curious, he touches it and finds a crack, revealing it's a fake. Without wasting any time, he pushes the panel open and runs out, soon finding himself in a mysterious hallway floating in a pitch-black void. It feels like he's been running forever, but when he finally reaches another room, he notices his hair has grown longer, and his pajamas are now faded. The room is empty, and as soon as he enters, the door slams behind him. Instead of baby angels, there are now adult angels who vanish into the wall, leaving only their members sticking out as buttons. This phase is called practice. Meanwhile, in Mexico, little Antonio's family is getting worried because his dad, Escargot Man, a wrestler, has been acting all quiet and moody. His wife thinks it's because his next opponent is way younger, but the grandfather wisely points out that experience is what really counts, not youth. Escargot Man gets a ride from his daughter, Sister Karen, in her truck, and she drives him to the wrestling ring so he can start getting ready early. This involves changing clothes and having a quick prayer to the Virgin. Meanwhile, at school, Antonio is getting bullied by his classmates for betting on his dad, with them calling Escargot Man a weak loser. As match time draws closer, Sister Karen hops back into her van, picking up Antonio and their grandfather to take them to the match. She doesn't stick around though, and Antonio and Grandpa manage to find some of the last seats just as the show is about to begin. The first team to enter the ring are the Northern Tough Ones, Super Demon and Tequila Joe. Then, Escargot Man and his partner, Silver Eagle, make their entrance under the team name, Kiss Me A Lot. Silver Eagle is the first to fight for the team, starting off strong. But things quickly turn sour when the Northern Tough Ones gang up on him instead of fighting him one-on-one. They keep calling out to Escargot Man, trying to get him to join in, but he's not having it, until Silver Eagle pulls a trick to get Super Demon and Tequila Joe to hit each other, giving him the chance to escape. Escargot Man quickly finds himself overpowered as well. Just as his opponent is about to swing a chair at him, the man in the mysterious room presses a member button, and whoosh, Escargot Man's neck magically extends, knocking out both opponents with a headbutt. In the room, nothing happens, which catches the man's attention. So, he presses the button again, and this time, Escargot Man knocks out Silver Eagle, the referee, Antonio, and even the bell. Still seeing no results, the man starts trying different buttons. One button causes a metal band's lead singer to breathe fire over his audience at a concert in Los Angeles. Another one makes a Russian magician mess up his trick, failing to make his assistant disappear. The third causes a man in China to start barking at his own dogs. Just when the man is about to give up, he notices some light shining from above and realizes that unlike the last room, this one has no ceiling. He can see angels flying around in the distance. Excited, he decides to try something completely different. This time, instead of pressing the member buttons, he uses them to climb the walls. And it works. Each time he grabs a button with his hands or steps on them with his feet, something bizarre happens on Earth. Flowers blossom, elephants die, all sorts of strange events unfold. The higher the man climbs, the more complex the effects become. It's not just nature anymore, humanity's big and small moments start popping up too, like toasters and major life events. By the time he reaches the top, his hair and beard have grown long, and he no longer needs to hold onto the wall. He's floating now, just like the angels. With all the experience he's gathered from his previous rooms, he embraces his new godlike role, purposely choosing humanity's biggest moments instead of randomly pressing buttons. By the time he's finished, he's surrounded by feathers instead of walls. He steps through a glowing portal, which takes him into the final room. In this room, the walls are covered with maps of the continents, and there's one giant member button. The man is just about to press it, ready for whatever comes next. This is the phase known as the future. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any more videos like this. Thanks for watching.